You know the person. Brilliant, reads constantly, runs circles around everyone in an argument, can spot a bad decision from a mile away in every part of their life, except one, their relationships. Somehow, the same mind that won't buy a car without 3 weeks of research will fall completely, irrationally, head over heels for exactly the wrong person. And they'll swear the whole time that this one is different, that this one makes sense. Why does intelligence seem to just turn off right at the one moment it matters most? There's a philosopher who answered this question almost 200 years ago, and his answer is still uncomfortable. His name is Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher writing in the early 1800s, famous for being one of the most clear-eyed pessimists in the history of thought. Most people know him for his gloomy view of existence in general. Fewer people know he wrote an entire essay specifically on love and sex, and it's one of the strangest, most clinical, and honestly most useful pieces of philosophy ever written on the subject. He wasn't trying to write poetry about romance. He was trying to explain, mechanically, why love feels the way it feels, and why it makes fools out of otherwise rational people. Schopenhauer starts from a strange place. He asks, why do people in love act so irrationally? Why does a perfectly sensible person suddenly write bad poetry, ignore obvious red flags, or blow up a stable life for someone they've known 6 weeks? His answer is that we've misunderstood what's actually happening when we fall in love. We think it's a personal choice made by us, for our own reasons, in pursuit of our own happiness. Schopenhauer says that's an illusion. What's actually happening underneath the illusion is something much older and much less personal. He argues that behind every individual human being, there's a deeper force he calls the will. Not will in the sense of willpower, but will in the sense of a blind, driving urge toward life. It's the same force pushing a plant toward sunlight or an animal toward survival. It doesn't think, it doesn't reason, it just pushes. And according to Schopenhauer, this force has one overriding interest when it comes to human beings: the continuation of the species, not your happiness, not your fulfillment, the next generation. Here's where it gets interesting. Schopenhauer says this deep, impersonal drive is smart enough to know that human beings, being conscious and self-interested, would never willingly sacrifice their own comfort, time, and freedom just to serve some abstract species-level goal. So the will doesn't ask for permission. Instead, it disguises itself. It dresses up its own agenda: reproduction, genetic compatibility, continuation of the species, as something that feels, from the inside, like personal desire, like romantic attraction, like this person is special, this person is different, I need to be with this person. What we experience as being swept away by love, Schopenhauer says, is really our instincts doing calculations we're not consciously aware of, assessing health, symmetry, complementary traits, potential offspring, and then translating those calculations into a feeling so intense it can override reason entirely. That's why he describes the specific, overwhelming pull toward one particular person, rather than people in general, as the will's most convincing disguise. It doesn't feel like biology. It feels like fate. And this is the part that explains our smart friend from the intro. Schopenhauer's whole point is that intelligence operates at the level of conscious reasoning. But this instinctual drive he's describing operates underneath that, at a level intelligence doesn't have direct access to. You can out-argue a bad decision. You cannot out-argue an instinct wearing the mask of a feeling. In fact, Schopenhauer suggests the more forcefully someone insists their attraction is purely rational. I've thought this through. This genuinely is the right person for me. The more likely they are being moved by something they can't actually see. The intellect isn't driving the car. It's a passenger, confidently narrating a trip it didn't choose the destination for. This is bleak. And Schopenhauer knew it was bleak. He's not saying love is fake. He's saying the reasons we give ourselves for love, this person's kindness, humor, our compatibility, our shared values, are usually real, but they're not the actual engine. They're the story the conscious mind tells to make sense of a pull that's already there for other reasons entirely. So, bring this into your actual life. Think about the last time you or someone close to you got pulled towards someone who, on paper, made no sense. Different values, different life goals, maybe even someone who was actively bad for them. And think about how they explained it. To friends, to themselves. It probably didn't sound like, biology is doing something to me right now. It sounded like reasons. They just get me. I've never felt this way before. This is different. Every one of those phrases feels like a conclusion arrived at by thought. Schopenhauer would say it's the opposite. It's a feeling arrived at first, with the thinking constructed afterward to justify it. This is why being smart offers so little protection. A smart person doesn't lack the ability to reason. They have plenty. But reasoning is only useful for evaluating a decision you're aware you're making. Here, the actual decision, the pull, the spark, the sense that this person matters more than the evidence suggests they should, happens before conscious reasoning ever gets involved. By the time you're thinking it through, you're often just building a case for a verdict that was already reached somewhere else. You can see this pattern everywhere once you know to look for it. The person who says they value stability, calm, someone emotionally available, and then falls every single time for someone chaotic and unavailable. The friend who can list with total clarity everything wrong with the person they're dating and still can't leave. That's not a failure of intelligence. According to Schopenhauer, that's intelligence being handed a job it was never equipped to do alone, trying to reason its way through a process that was never primarily rational to begin with.
Now here's where people usually take this idea too far, and it's worth correcting before you walk away from this video. It's tempting to hear all this and conclude that love is fake, that reasoning about relationships is pointless, that you're just a puppet to instinct and there's no point resisting it. Schopenhauer doesn't actually say that, and it's a misreading to stop there. His point isn't that reason is useless in love. It's that reason arrives late, and it needs to know that about itself. Once you understand that the initial pull towards someone is not proof of compatibility, that it's often just the will doing its job, you can actually use your intelligence for what it's genuinely good at, evaluating what happens after the pull, watching behavior over time, noticing patterns instead of feelings, being suspicious, specifically, of the moments when the certainty is strongest and the evidence is thinnest. The smart person's mistake isn't feeling the pull. Everyone feels the pull. The mistake is trusting the pull as though it were a conclusion, instead of treating it as a starting hypothesis that still needs to be tested. That's the honest version of this idea. Not distrust all feelings, but don't confuse the intensity of a feeling for the reliability of a judgment. So if there's one sentence to take from Schopenhauer here, it's this: the feeling that convinces you a decision doesn't need examining is exactly the decision that needs examining most. Intelligence doesn't fail us in love because love is stupid. It fails us when we mistake a feeling for a verdict already reached by reason. If this kind of thinking is useful to you,
taking old philosophy and actually applying it to the decisions you're making right now, consider sticking around. There's more of this coming.